Around here, we got an old saying. You don't ask me no questions, and I won't be telling you any lies. Welcome to Team G503. I am your host, Scott Schiller, and in this video, I do want to ask you. I want to ask you to watch this video because there's a lot of controversy out there, and I do a lot of research and look at a lot of pictures before I make these videos because I do want to do the best job I can for you, and I want to give you the best information that I possibly can. Am I right all the time? No, but believe me when I tell you, I do research this thoroughly and I ask questions before I make these videos. There is a small part, a bracket. It's the front forward axe bracket. It goes right here on your axe, holds it against the side of the Jeep. And you wouldn't think that there's that much controversy of how to install it, which fasteners go in and out. There's more out there you can see. The hard part is when you look at old pictures and you zoom in on those pictures, they get a little grainy and distorted because they are old photographs. And then you go through and you see what everybody else posts and you kind of decipher. I think I've got this one figured out. This video is entitled Installing the Front Axe Bracket on a G503 Jeep. Check it out. I hope it's helpful. Let's start with the measurements here from the front step on the tab. If you don't have the tab from the outside of the step there, the first hole would be 1 1/8 centered in the tab. In my case, the center of the tab would be about 3/8 of an inch, but yours may vary. Okay, let's pull the measurements from the center line here where your axe and shovel bracket are on the tub. So you're going to put the tape right there on the center, and the first hole there in the step is at 8 1/4 inches. The next hole, the one furthest away from that joint, is going to be at 9 9/16 inches, and it's going to be about 3.5 inches up from the bottom side of your tub. So if you want to eyeball that as you do it, you can measure right here from the bottom, and you can go up 3.5 inches and try to put a mark right there where you had your first measurement, and I was pretty close there. I'm just going to go ahead with a Sharpie and make a mark. Before I drill, I'm going to double check with my bracket to make sure, and it looks like those holes will line up just fine. Next, I'll use an 1/8 inch drill bit to drill a pilot hole on my mark. You want to use an 1/8 inch pilot hole because if you go to the next size up drill and try to use a larger one, the drill bit might jump and damage your sheet metal. After I've got my pilot hole all drilled and clean, I will switch to a 3/8 inch size drill bit and finish up the hole. The part number for the forward axe bracket is part number A2995 for the MB, and it's also available with an F script in part number A2995 GPW. As you see here, I'm installing one of the nuts, and I'm going to leave about 2 or 3 threads towards the bottom, or about 1/4 inch. That'll allow me to make an adjustment when I have to, if I have to go in or out with the bracket to accommodate the handle. The second leg will get a nut installed as well, and do it the same way. Run it down to about 2 or 3 threads or 1/4 inch. Next, we'll install the 2 lock washers over the top of the threads onto the top of the nuts like this. There's a lot of pictures out there I've seen where this is the only part that's on there against the body tub. However, we've got also, as per the manual, these 2 flat washers that go on top of the lock washers as shown. Now here comes the controversy as we've got this ready to be installed. I want you to take a look at this bracket really closely. You'll notice that the leg on my right side here is slightly longer than the one on the left. Also, if you turn it sideways, that longer leg is flat where the front one is kind of a little cocked or dog-legged, as some guys will call it. This is going to be important when you install this on the tub. How it's located is the longer of the 2 legs, this one, will go into the bottom hole right there in the tab of your step, as such. It should go right into the holes like that and hold itself practically in place. During the filming of this video, I actually tried to put it on the opposite way and would make it very hard for this lock washer and nut to go on the back side of the tab there because there's a roll and you see the spot welds there on the tub, so there's very little room there. So if you put the short leg that's bent on there, it will be very difficult to install this nut. With that long leg, you can barely get it past there, but it will go on. Leave yourself about 2 threads as shown here on each one, and then we can start tightening it with the wrenches from both the in and the outside. I'll be using 2 1/2 inch wrenches, and the 2 locations where you'll be tightening from, one will be on the inside where the side support is, and the second location will be underneath the tub between those spot welds on the bottom. I'll show you at the end of the video exactly where these locations are. Now, when I tighten these, I'm going to tighten them by moving back and forth on each one, the top and the bottom, and alternate when I'm turning. I'm going to do 2 turns on each one and try to draw that in evenly to the 2 nuts and lock washers that are already behind there. That's why it's important to just keep that little 2 to 3 thread area on the back side, because as you're tightening these, you're not tightening the back when you're tightening the ones on the outside. It won't take but a couple of turns to get these nice and snug. When they're nice and snug, go back to the top and give it a final one-time tight and make sure everything is nice and secure. Do that again on the bottom bolt and you should be ready to go. With all your fasteners tight, we'll move on. Normally I paint my parts before I install them, but I wanted to be able to move the threads in or out did I need to just when I do the final check with an actual axe handle. I've got here a fawn's foot correct handle that's exactly as it should be for a World War II axe. You see how easily that went in sideways like that. Now notice this width here. That's where your axe handle should ride, and it should be smooth to the outside, not inside or not over the top of this. It should be right inside on that top bracket. This is because this axe handle is thin enough to fit inside that groove. Now let me show you what happens when you try to put an axe handle in here that comes from a big box store. I happen to be working on an axe, and I'm going to sand and adjust this handle so it will be correct. But this is how it comes right out of the store, and some of the reproductions that are made out there are the same way. There's my axe that I'm working on. That'll be for another day. Notice how thick this is. You barely can fit it inside that bracket right there. But more so importantly, when you get to the area it's supposed to turn, that axe handle is far too thick and wide to fit inside that bracket. So all that'll happen is the bracket won't be holding in the correct location, and you'll have to bend your handle, and you'll be very displeased. The measurements I showed you installing this fit the handle almost perfectly, for the original handle that is. And so, but if you needed to, you could back off those a couple little threads, so you probably can move that bracket out maybe 1/8 to 1/4, but if you follow what I showed you, I think it's going to be just fine. My last step here is I'm going to go ahead and prime and paint everything. I always use Ron Fitzpatrick Jeep Parts paints, and this is the Barrier Guard red oxide primer, which I am a huge fan of, and here's it all finished up with just a couple coats of the 33070. Thank you to Ron Fitzpatrick Jeep Parts and Joe's Motor Pool for the fantastic parts and paint. This ought to hold the axe on there very nicely. We'll take one last look here from the side just so you can see the orientation of those legs again, and that is the way that that is mounted. There you have it. Now, in that video I showed you that little bent piece of 5/16 threaded steel. There is a difference in the legs, and it's very, very clear. Joe's Motor Pool has done a fantastic job reproducing these. They reproduce their stuff off of old drawings and new old stock parts, and they are spot on, as they say in England. I'm telling you, this stuff is awesome. And a lot of folks have asked me, say, well, how are we going to be able to tell the difference between, what was real and what's reproduction if they're so good? You can still tell, and don't worry, your new old stock parts are going to be just as sought after as they were before. But I just think it's nice that a company cares and puts the time in to make something that is correct, because a lot of us out there either can't find the new old stock, can't afford the new old stock. It just makes it really easy for the people, the enthusiasts, to be able to get these parts, and they're going to work, and they're not going to be all twisted, and it's going to fit in the axis, and it's going to work. Once again, I want to explain it, and I want to put an definite accentuation on this. You saw how those handles go in there. You cannot go out to the big box store or to Ace and buy an axe. And there's some people out there reproducing axes that are nowhere near close. They don't fit in the sheath, and they do not fit in that bracket. So you just want to be sure. There's ways to do it, and I'll show you about the axes in the near future here. Okay, my friends, if you'd like to subscribe to Team G503, please do so, and I'm inviting you to do so. Just click that subscribe button down there, hit that bell as well, so you know when we put out the new videos. Got a lot coming your way, so I thank you all for the subscriptions and following and all the support you give me. Till next time, my friends, you can ask me whatever you want, and I'll do my best to answer. Keep it safe and happy Jeeping.